Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me here in the finals for the face-to-face Legacy 1K that happened at the end of January. On player one side, we have Dominic Harvey piloting Rakdos Cauldron. On player two side, we have Jessie Namaani piloting Grixis Delver. Both have done extraordinarily well in this event. So it looks like Dominic has taken a mulligan. I think that's what the die is representing here. Is he's on 6 cards. It looks like he is putting a card to the bottom. Jessie, I think, is keeping her hand, and she is the higher seed, so looks like she's ready to go. Dominic is still kind of wibbly wobbly on this card to pitch, and we are ready to go. Jessie starts off with a volcanic island and passes a turn. Dominic looks like he drew a Agatha's Soul Cauldron for the turn. Gonna start off with a Bloodstained Mire and pass the turn back to Jessie. Jessie gonna draw, tap 1 mana for a Brainstorm. Gonna draw 3 cards and then put 2 back on the top. After the Brainstorm, gonna pass the turn. Doesn't look like she found a land. Dominic gonna draw for his turn. There is a Great Furnace. I don't know if that's the card that he drew for the turn, but it's definitely there. It is played and then passed back to Jessie. Jessie gonna draw. Goes to the discard step, discards Stalactite Stalker. Dominic gonna draw, it's an Urza's Saga. Going to play an Ancient Tomb for his land drop. Looks like he's gonna try to resolve a Fable of the Mirror Breaker here. Nicely playing around Daze. Jessie gonna respond with a Force of Will, exiling the aforementioned Daze. So now Dominic is at 18 because he tapped the Ancient Tomb, and Jessie is at 19 from the alternative cost from Force of Will. After the Fable of the Mirror Breaker is countered, Dominic is passing to Jessie. Jessie gonna just draw a card for the turn and pass back to Dominic, not finding a second land drop here. I think Dominic just drew another Agatha's Soul Cauldron for his turn. Gonna play Urza's Saga as his land for the turn. Going to tap the Ancient Tomb, drop himself down to 16. Cast the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Thank you, Jessie, for updating the life totals. Dominic gonna pass the turn after the Agatha's Soul Cauldron resolves. Let's see if Jessie finds a second land drop here. This is looking... Okay, so it looks like she did pick up a Scalding Tarn. She's gonna cast a Brainstorm first. And Dominic is going to crack the Bloodstained Mire in response to the Brainstorm. So he finds a Badlands, and he's going to cast an Orcish Bowmaster in response to the Brainstorm. Looks like it is going to resolve, so Jessie gonna take 4 points of damage. And now this Orc army is gonna be a 4/4. Wow, there are so many cards in Jessie's hand. I'm surprised, like, I only mention that because she hasn't found a land drop until, like, I think this turn. That's the Scalding Tarn that we're looking at. But with all of the cards in the hand, we couldn't stop the Orcish Bowmaster from coming down. Looks like there are a lot of... Looks like Dazes were... I think there were a couple Dazes, and now Jessie's considering putting one of them back. I think she keeps 1 in hand just in case as backup. Gonna play the Scalding Tarn and then crack it to get rid of these 2 cards from the hand. And we're gonna cast a Stalactite Stalker, so presumably getting an Underground Sea from the Scalding Tarn. Alright, gonna pass the turn. Stalactite Stalker gets a +1/+1 counter, and Agatha's Soul Cauldron going to exile the Stalactite Stalker at the end of Jessie's turn. Dominic gonna draw for his turn. It is a Walking Ballista off of the top. So going to cast Walking Ballista for 0. This will make Agatha's Soul Cauldron pretty good, as it can then exile the Walking Ballista and turn both the Orcish Bowmaster or the Orc army into a Walking Ballista. What a fascinating interaction here. So the reason why the Orcish Bowmaster has a +1/+1 counter on it is because of the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. It looks like Jessie is just going to scoop up the game That is going to be Dominic Harvey over Jessie Namaani in game number 1. Okie dokie. Players have sideboarded up, and we are starting game number 2. If you missed that blazingly fast victory in game number 1, Dominic Harvey is 1 game up over Jessie Namaani, piloting Rakdos Cauldron against Grixis Delver, respectively. So we're going to see Jessie on the play here. She has to win 2 games back-to-back to kind of take this tournament. Both players very content with their 7s. Gonna start the game off. Just gonna start off with a Mishra's Bauble, cracking it immediately, targeting herself. Down comes a Polluted Delta, gonna shuffle away the card that she checked, and go down to 19. Finds a Volcanic Island. Are we gonna see any follow-up plays? A second Mishra's Bauble, gonna take a peek at Dominic's deck. Couldn't get a glimpse there. But Jessie gonna draw 2 cards at the beginning of Dominic's turn. Dominic gonna draw for his turn. Down comes Urza's Saga, passes the turn. Jessie gonna try to fire off a Brainstorm here, probably. There we go. Gotta get it down before the Orcish Bowmasters are castable. Alright, so she's gonna put 2 back on the top. There looks like there's a Dragon's Rage Channeler and a Ponder in the hand. I think there's a Stalactite Stalker in the cards that she put back, but she's not going to draw the Stalactite Stalker. I think she drew a Daze off of the top. Here we see Dragon's Rage Channeler. Dominic gonna let it resolve. Gonna follow up the Dragon's Rage Channeler with a 3rd Mishra's Bauble. Gonna trigger the Surveil. Surveil is going to pitch the Stalactite Stalker into the graveyard. Jessie going to crack the Mishra's Bauble, target Dominic Harvey, and I think that's a Broadside Bombardiers on the top of Dominic's deck. He's going to draw it for the turn. Down comes Ancient Tomb. Dominic is ready to start making Urza's Saga tokens. I think just that, Jessie has just drawn a Meltdown for her turn. There is Delirium, right? Artifact, land, instant, creature. So swinging in for 3 drops Dominic down to 17. Jessie at 19. Jessie gonna go to her 2nd main phase, cast a Ponder, trigger the Surveil. Takes a quick peek, puts it into the graveyard. It is a Orcish Bowmaster, and we're gonna resolve the Ponder. So we see stacking Murktide to the bottom, and then Scalding Tarn in the middle. Couldn't get a glimpse at what the card she wants to draw is. Maybe we will get a little peek at it. It is a Polluted Delta. So now the stack on her deck is Scalding Tarn, Murktide Regent, but gonna pass the turn. Dominic Harvey gonna create a construct at the end of Jessie's turn. Going to draw and then uptick the Urza Saga, and now he's in the tank about whether or not he wants to float mana or kind of create another construct here. He does create another construct. He drops himself down to 13. Urza Saga is now going to resolve the Tutor trigger. So in response to the ability, Jessie's going to crack the Polluted Delta just in case Dominic tries to fetch like a Pithing Needle or something. Going to find a Volcanic Island. So hopefully we can get an update on these life totals here. Dominic gonna find a Nile Spellbomb. Try to take care of Jessie's graveyard, shrinking the Dragon's Rage Channeler and stopping a Murktide from coming down. Players are playing quite quickly here. Hard for me to get a glimpse of what's in their hands. Dominic gonna go straight into the combat phase and swings at Jessie. Brings her down to 15. So the constructs are 3/3s. Dominic has Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I think there's a Bloodstained Mire in there. There's an Chaos Defiler, a Broadside Bombardiers, Great Furnace. I think there's another Ancient Tomb in there as well. So Jessie, Dominic not cracking the Nile Spellbomb yet. Jessie going to cast a Brainstorm, trigger Surveil. Going to keep it on the top and then draw 3 from the Brainstorm. And then we're going to put 2 back on top. So Meltdown is going to do very nicely in this board state. All right, so we resolved the brainstorm. Jessie going to continue to her turn and going to draw. So she put a wasteland on the top. So tapping 2 mana, I think we're going to see the meltdown here? No. Okay, so she's got a lightning bolt, meltdown, wasteland. I think there's another ponder in there as well. It's going to meltdown for 0. Trigger the surveil. Gonna leave it on the top. Okay, so in response to the meltdown, Dominic going to crack the Nile Spellbomb, draw a card in the process, exile Jessie's graveyard. So that's just gonna leave the meltdown in there. Jessie gonna play a wasteland and strip away the ancient tomb from Dominic Harvey. Then goes to combat and swings in for 1 point of damage, dropping him down to 12. Jessie now at 15. Leaving up a blue source of mana for the blue elemental blast that I saw in Jessie's hand. Dominic gonna start off with a Great Furnace, cast an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Is there a Daze coming up? Jessie does have Daze. So Daze, Lightning Bolt, Ponder. I think that's an Underground Sea. Not quite sure what else is there, but returns a Volcanic Island to the hand. Trigger the Surveil. Surveil is going to stay on the top. Jessie now has 3 card types in the graveyard: Meltdown, Wasteland, and Daze. So sorcery, land, and an instant. Jessie going to pay 1 blue for a Ponder. Trigger Surveil, going to keep it on top, I think. No, she's going to pitch it. It is a Polluted Delta, and she's going to resolve the Ponder. So Jessie has 5 cards in hand. I think it is Volcanic Island, Underground Sea, Lightning Bolts, Blue Elemental Blast, and I'm unsure about the 3rd or the 5th card. Jessie on Ponder, looking at a blue card, Force of Will, Lightning Bolt, not good enough to keep, and she's going to shuffle. Dominic Harvey still has a grip of, I think, 6 cards. Actually, he still might have the full 7. Okay, so goes to combat, chips away with Dragon's Rage Channeler at Dominic's health, drops him down from 12 to 11, and then passes a turn. Dominic going to draw for his turn. So for sure, he has Ancient Tomb, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Broadside Bombardier, Chaos Defiler. Couldn't get a glimpse of what else is going on, but going to tap the Badlands of the Great Furnace for an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Soul Cauldron is going to resolve. So there were 2 Soul Cauldrons in the hand. So he still has 1 of them there. Alright, so Soul Cauldron resolves, going to pass the turn. Jessie going to tap the Volcanic Island that she played for the turn. Looks like she's considering playing the Bolt. Right, Bolt Dominic down to 8, gonna trigger Surveil. She's gonna pitch it. It is a Scalding Tarn to the bin. Jessie going to untap and draw for her turn. Going to cast a Ponder. Trigger the Surveil. Dragon's Rage Channeler has seen a ton of cards this game. Okay, so the Surveil is going to stay, and she's going to resolve the Ponder now. So there is a Stalactite Stalker in there. I don't know what the other 2 cards were. So I think it's a Force of Will, Stalactite Stalker, and a Wasteland. I think she stacked it Wasteland, Force of Will, Stalactite Stalker. So draws off of the Ponder, so good enough to keep. Actually, I don't think it was a Force of Will. I can't tell what it is. Dragon's Rage Channeler gonna go to combat, gonna swing in for 1. Drops Dominic down to 7. In the main phase 2, Jessie going to slam down a Wasteland and considering stripping away the Badlands. Dominic Harvey says, sure, nothing to do. Badlands gets Wastelanded. Goes to the end step, and Dominic activating the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Not many great options here. I think you just start picking off spells to prevent Murktide from being large and kind of isolate the card type to keep Dragon's Rage Channeler small. So Dominic draws a Badlands for his turn. goes to play it for his land. Down comes a Broadside Bombardiers, drops himself down to 5. Jessie going to, in response, Blue Elemental Blast the Broadside Bombardier, trigger Surveil, going to keep it on the top. Dominic has nothing else to do, passes a turn back. Jessie going to draw the card she kept on top from the Surveil. It is a Lightning Bolt. So, goes to combat, drops Dominic down to 4. Oh, so the card that was in the Ponder that I didn't know was a Molten Collapse. Jessie going to go to the end step. Dominic going to exile Blue Elemental Blast from Jessie's graveyard and going to draw for his turn. Doesn't have a ton going on here. There's a Bloodstained Mire for his land drop for the turn. So still has an Agatha's Soul Cauldron, still has a Chaos Defiler. Looks like there's an Ancient Tomb in there. Going to main phase an Orcish Bowmaster. Actually, is this main phase? I think. No, Jessie has untapped, so this is during the upkeep, I believe. Okay, so in response to the Orcish Bowmaster, Jessie's going to cast Lightning Bolt, target Dominic Harvey, drop him down to 1, trigger the Surveil, and dumps a Stalactite Stalker into the graveyard. So now because of the Stalactite Stalker, the Dragon's Rage Channeler is Delirious. It becomes a 3/3. Okay. So Jessie takes it back over Dominic and ties it up 1-1. So that last interaction there was Dominic tried to Agatha's Soul Cauldron, the Stalactite Stalker, to get rid of the DRC's Delirium and try to get it back down to a 1/1 so that the Orcish Bowmaster could kill it. But Jessie just had the second or the third bolt and bolted in response to that and just finished Dominic off. So we're going to be back for game number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched all of the rounds up to this point, I just want to thank you for supporting this channel and the commentary that I'm doing. We're here in the final game between Dominic Harvey on Rakdos Cauldron and Jessie Namaani piloting Grixis Delver in this event. So this last game will determine who the winner of this Legacy 1K is. So if you were just watching up into this point in this last game, Dominic Harvey won game number 1. Jessie just short on a bunch of lands. Dominic was able to set up a speedy win there. And then Jessie fought back long and hard with a Dragon's Rage Channeler that saw a ton of cards and was able to just control Dominic and what he was doing. So Dominic will be on the play here. Starts off with a Badlands and then casts Niall's Spellbomb. Passes a turn to Jessie. And she's going to draw. There's a Force of Will off of the top. Going to play an Underground Sea. And this is a Ponder. It is a Stalactite Stalker. So not going to get a... Ooh, there's a Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is going to be cracked and target Dominic Harvey. It's going to trigger the Stalactite Stalker, and then Jessie going to draw during Dominic's upkeep. Dominic going to play a Bloodstained Mire for his land for turn. Going to crack it and go down to 19. I think these life totals should be reversed. So it should be Dominic at 19, not Jessie. Okay, so Dominic finds Badlands off of the Bloodstained Mire. Plays a Lotus Petal. Is that a Brea's Apprentice? There's an Orcish Bowmaster in Dominic's hand. Wow, I guess Brea's Apprentice does have 2 activated abilities. This could have worked pretty well with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. What an interesting deck. Alright, Jessie draws for her turn, going to go to combat, swings with the Stalactite Stalker, brings Dominic down to 17, Jessie at 20. Jessie goes into her second main phase, plays a Wasteland, tries to target a Badlands to destroy. Dominic going to respond, casting a Orcish Bowmaster. Jessie is going to let that resolve, gets pinged down to 19 from the enter the battlefield trigger, and the Wasteland is going to resolve, takes Dominic's Badlands out of the game. The Wasteland entered the graveyard, so during Jessie's end step, the Stalactite Stalker is going to get a +1/+1 counter, and Dominic will proceed to untap and draw for his turn. So there is a Pyroblast. I'm pretty sure that's a Brave's Apprentice, and then 2 other cards in Dominic's hand. Jessie looks like she has 6 cards in hand. So Dominic has Great Furnace in there as well. Dominic, consider just cracking the Nile Spellbomb targeting Jessie just to draw a card here. Finds a Lotus Petal. So Jessie showing double Force of Will, Daze, Volcanic Island, Murktide Regent, and then 2 other cards. Dominic going to go to combat, swing at Jessie for 2. Brings her down to 17, making it 17 all. Going to pass the turn back to Jessie. She's going to untap and draw for her turn. I think that's a Scalding Tarn off of the top. Yep, plays the Scalding Tarn. Gonna go to combat, swing in for 3, drops Dominic down to 14. I think she mistakenly took it off of her life instead of his. It was a long day of Magic, folks. This is the 9th round of Magic, and we're in final round. So here we are. Jessie going to fetch, finds the Volcanic Island, goes to the end step, makes the Stalactite Stalker now a 4/4 because he got that extra +1/+1 counter on it from this turn. Dominic going to draw for his turn. I think he found an Ancient Tomb, so now he can do some pretty explosive stuff. So I think he has Broadside Bombardier, Pyroblast, Lotus Petal. Again, I think it's a Brea's Apprentice, and now Great Furnace and Ancient Tomb. Dominic going to go to combat, swings in with the 2 Orc, and brings Jessie down to 14, making it 14 all once again. Dominic going to play Lotus Petal, tap for 3 mana, cast a Brea's Apprentice. Jessie gonna need to double check what it does. So when it enters the battlefield, it creates a 1/1 Thopter, and then I'm pretty sure what it can do is you can tap the Brea's Apprentice to sacrifice an artifact, and then you can either exile the top card of your library and you can cast it for that turn, or I'm pretty sure you can buff someone's attack for the turn. Yeah, so the second option is target creature gets +2/+0 until the end of the turn. So Jessie's just going to let that resolve. Going to Lightning Bolt the Brea's Apprentice. Jessie going to untap for her turn. Gonna go to combat. Stalactite Stalker smacking in for 4. Brings Dominic down to 8 because of the Ancient Tomb. Yes. Jessie goes to second main phase, plays Volcanic Island. Down comes Dragon's Rage Channeler. Dominic says, yes, that resolves. Jessie going to pass the turn. Dominic draws for his turn. Couldn't quite see what it was. But Dominic has a lot of catching up to do. The Stalactite Stalker has just kind of outpaced the Orcish Bowmaster and its army. But Dominic plays the Great Furnace for the turn. Jessie still has quite a bit of disruption. Double Force of Will, Daze, Murktide Regent in the hand. Dominic looking at the Broadside Bombardier. Looks like he's going to commit to it. Gonna crack the Lotus Petal, tap Great Furnace and Badlands. Try to cast a Broadside Bombardier. So that leaves Great Furnace, Pyroblast in Dominic's hand. Jessie going to respond to the Broadside Bombardier and going to Force of Will to the Broadside. Drops herself down to 13. Does Dominic try to Pyroblast the Force of Will? I think we're resolving... Yes, sorry, Jessie was resolving her Surveil trigger. Dumps a Scalding Tarn into the graveyard. Dominic going to crack the last Lotus Petal that he has to cast this Pyroblast, countering the Force of Will. The Force of Will is going to get countered is the broadside going to resolve? It is not. Jessie going to fight over it, exiling Murktide Regent, emptying out her hand, going down to 12. Going to trigger Surveil, and we're going to see she's going to dump it, takes a Polluted Delta off the top of her deck. She deals with the Broadside Bombardier. Dominic Harvey with 1 card left in hand. So Dominic Harvey has 1 card left in hand. Orc Army with a 1/1 counter on it. An Orcish Bowmaster and a 1/1 Thopter. Jessie has a Stalactite Stalker with 3 +1/+1 counters on it and a Dragon's Reach Channeler, no cards in hand. Dominic going to go to his attack step, chip in at Jessie's life for 1, drops her down to 11, and passes the turn. Jessie going to draw a card, and Jessie going to draw for her turn. Goes straight into the combat step and swinging in. Not Delirious. I'm pretty sure it's just lands and instances in there. So Stalactite Stalker, a 4/4, Dragon's Reach Channeler, a 1/1. Dominic Harvey setting up blocks. Looks like he's going to trade the Thopter into the Dragon's Reach Channeler. I don't think he's ready to give up this Orcish Bowmaster yet. So going to take 4, takes himself down to 4. Jessie still at 11, goes to the end step. Because the Dragon's Reach Channeler died, Stalactite Stalker going to get another counter, becoming a 5/5. I think in all of the videos we've covered, this is the largest the Stalactite Stalker has been. Dominic Harvey finds a Lotus Petal off the top, double blocks the Stalactite Stalker. Jessie going to pass a turn. Dominic Harvey draws and does not find an answer. And Jessie is going to take it over Dominic 2-1 in a grueling 9-round Legacy 1K. So congratulations to Jessie. She's tearing it up in Toronto here, and she's a force to be reckoned with. I hope you guys enjoyed this content coverage. It's probably a little bit unstable because I'm just getting back into the swing of things. Hopefully everything goes okay. And I'm still working on the Winter Invitational stuff, so that's going to be higher quality content. I have a couple special things in mind to do for that event coverage, so hopefully can get that out to you guys soon. I hope you guys will check it out, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.